When it comes to GTA, every new installment has delivered some groundbreaking features and improvements. But let's be honest, Rockstar has also left behind some things that defined the series for so many of us. With GTA 6 on the horizon, hopefully this year, there's a real chance to bring back some of those forgotten features that could make the game a true masterpiece. From iconic mechanics to small details that added so much depth and fun, here are 16 features Rockstar simply must revive or improve. Let's talk about something that will hit home for a lot of us. Cheat codes. Cheat codes were basically part of the GTA DNA. Everyone who played San Andreas back in the day probably had a scrap of paper lying around with all the best cheats scribbled on it. We'd huddle around the console, quickly typing them in to spawn tanks, make cars fly, or just go on a wild rampage with infinite ammo. And honestly, those cheat codes became a language of their own. I bet most of you still remember Hasoyam without even thinking about it. Money, health, armor, and a car repair, all in one. It was the ultimate cheat. But here's the problem. If I asked you to name just one cheat from GTA 5, you'd probably have to think about it for a minute. That's because cheat codes have slowly faded away from being the core fun mechanic they once were. Sure, they're still there in GTA 5, but let's be real, they don't hit the same. It feels like Rockstar doesn't care about them anymore. It's like they're an afterthought, just thrown in for nostalgia or something. Next up, and I'm pretty sure most of you forgot about this one, is the ability to pick up and throw stuff in GTA 4. That was just crazy. To be real, when I first played the game, I didn't even realize how much fun that was. I thought it's probably just for this one mission, and then didn't really use it. But now, whenever I jump back into GTA 4, there's no way I'm walking past a brick without picking it up and chucking it at someone's head. It's such a simple thing, but it makes a big difference. Whether it's throwing a bottle at some random NPC or smashing a window with a brick, it felt like you could really mess with the world in a way that was just plain fun. It wasn't all about just shooting or driving. You could actually pick up stuff around you and use it to cause chaos. It sucks that this feature didn't make it into GTA 5. Imagine how much fun we'd have in GTA Online. But yeah, I guess that's one of those things Rockstar decided to leave behind. Then there's something I really miss. Safe houses with more of a purpose. And let's skip GTA Online for this one, because I'm talking about the main game here. Seriously, I miss being able to own multiple properties scattered all over the map. Back in San Andreas, it was fun to switch things up every now and then, moving from one spot to another. There was something cool about having different places to crash in different parts of the city. You'd finish up a mission on one side of the map, and instead of just driving back to the same old house every time, you could head to your spot in the countryside, or maybe one of your pads in the city. It made the world feel bigger, like you really had your own little empire going. In GTA 5, sure, you've got a house or two, but it doesn't feel the same. I miss that flexibility of being able to pick where you want to live and making it feel like it's actually yours, not just a background set piece. It's like they cut back on that freedom, and it's one of those little things I wish they kept from the older games. Most of the features we're talking about come from San Andreas, and this one's no different. Multiple fighting styles. I don't know who had the genius idea to add different fighting styles like boxing, kung fu, and more, but it was absolutely brilliant. It gave combat a fun, unique feel, and you could mix things up depending on what style you wanted to master. Now, don't get me wrong, the fighting system in GTA 4 was solid. It felt more realistic, sure, but I still kind of missed that variety from San Andreas. And let's not even get started on GTA 5's fighting system. It's probably one of the weakest we've seen in the series. The punches feel weak, and the fights are over before they even start. It's like every NPC folds after one punch. Where's the challenge in that? What we need are proper fights, where the NPC doesn't drop after the first swing. It's honestly annoying how fragile pedestrians are in 5. I'd love to see a return to more dynamic combat, where you could brawl for a bit and actually feel like you're in a fight, not just knocking out NPCs with a light tap. Let's talk about vigilante, paramedic, and firefighter missions, because honestly, GTA in the 3D era was ahead of its time. Nowadays, roleplay is the norm, especially with how popular it's become online through 5M servers. People are playing out entire lives in GTA, from cops to paramedics and everything in between. But here's the thing, over 20 years ago, we already had a taste of single-player roleplay built right into the game. Back in the day, you could hop into a police car, an ambulance, or a fire truck, and boom, you're suddenly taking on the role of a vigilante, paramedic, or firefighter. These missions gave us something extra to do outside of the main storyline, and it was so cool to switch things up and dive into these roles. Even in GTA 4, Rockstar kept things interesting with those vigilante police missions, and let's not forget the police computer. You could chase down criminals, track suspects, and really feel like you were playing as a cop. But then, in GTA 5, all of that got left behind. Those missions just disappeared. It's crazy to think that Rockstar, who pretty much pioneered single-player roleplay in GTA, slowly phased it out with each new game. And now, if you want to get that kind of experience, you have to go online. Don't get me wrong, the online stuff is great, but I kinda miss having those options in the main game itself. It feels like they abandoned a concept that was ahead of its time, and now it's only coming back because the community pushed for it. And while we're on the topic, does anyone even remember the hidden bus driver side mission in Vice City? That's one of those things that I feel like only the hardcore fans remember. You couldn't just grab any bus either. It had to be the coach. It was such a random, low-key mission, but once you figured it out, it was actually pretty fun driving around and getting some money for that. It's stuff like this that gave those older games so much charm. Rockstar threw in all these little side activities that you could completely miss if you weren't paying attention. In Vice City, being a bus driver wasn't even a big part of the game, but it was there, waiting for those who wanted to take a break from the chaos and just do something different. More gore is next on the list, and I honestly don't know what happened. Back in the 3D era, we had exploding heads from sniper shots and way more intense brutality overall. But somewhere along the line, GTA started toning it down. It's like Rockstar decided to pull back on the gore, and to this day, I still wonder why. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 proved that the studio can still deliver when it comes to those intense, visceral moments. The gore in that game was insane. Limbs flying, brutal gunshots, all the little details that made combat feel raw and real. So, if they still have the skill to do that, what happened with GTA? Why did they shy away from it in the newer games? Maybe GTA 6 will bring back some of that over-the-top gore, but who knows? It just feels weird that something that was once a big part of the series got scaled back. Sure, the games are still violent, but they're missing that extra edge that made the action feel more impactful. Next up, being able to jump towards a wall and grab onto it. I know it might sound a bit silly, but honestly, more parkour means more fun and freedom. In this case, we're not even going that far back, because let's be real, the 3D era was pretty limited when it came to movement. The best game from that era was San Andreas, where climbing really stood out, especially in that mission with Sweet where you had to drive around the city covering up Bayless graffiti. Also, I bet a lot of you remember the crazy parkour and free run mods that blew up for San Andreas about 10 to 15 years ago. Those were wild times, and the creativity of the modding community was just next level. But going back to the base game, what Rockstar pulled off in GTA 4 was on another level. Thanks to the Euphoria ragdoll system, we could really do some cool stuff. Climbing buildings, interacting with the environment in ways that just felt super fluid. No mods needed. It's a real shame that this feature didn't fully carry over to GTA 5. I miss that freedom to just scale a building or jump around with that ragdoll system. The gang wars, and jetpacking down into a gang war with my Uzis blazing. That's another thing on the list. San Andreas absolutely nailed this. Sure, it could get a bit annoying when you'd already hit 100% game completion, and yet, random gangs kept attacking your territories, forcing you to haul ass from one side of the map to the other just to defend your turf. But honestly, the gang wars and territorial control were some of the most memorable features in the game. It's a shame Rockstar dropped this concept in the later games. GTA 5, in many ways, felt like a spiritual successor to San Andreas, so you'd think they'd bring it back, but they didn't. Sure, you could roll into Ballast territory and start a shootout, but it had zero impact on the game. There was no real sense of fighting for control or defending your turf. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like it's a huge missed opportunity. And while we're on the topic, we can't forget about recruiting homies in San Andreas. Being able to roll with your crew and have them back you up during police chases or gang shootouts was such a cool feature. It felt great knowing you weren't going into battle alone. Top-down camera. This was like a tribute to the early GTA games, and honestly, it was a fun little feature to mess around with from time to time. The last time we saw it officially was in GTA 3. It wasn't something you'd use all the time, but it was a cool throwback to the original games, and it added some variety when you wanted to switch things up. Thanks to mods, I've been able to play GTA 4 and 5 in top-down mode, and honestly, it's way more fun than you'd think. It's perfect for those moments when you've done everything there is to do in the game and just want to screw around. Plus, it gives you that retro GTA feel, which is a nice change of pace from the usual third-person action. I've always wondered why Rockstar dropped this feature, especially since it seems like such a simple thing to implement. I mean, if modders can do it, why couldn't they just keep it as an option in the newer games? Now, here's something that probably 90% of you don't even remember: the flamethrower. How could they get rid of such an awesome weapon in GTA? I mean, I spent most of my time in Vice City with a flamethrower in hand, setting everything around me on fire. It was pure chaos, but in the best way possible. Sure, you had your guns and explosives, but there was something satisfying about watching the flames spread and enemies running for their lives. It was a weapon that felt different from everything else, and it was perfect for causing mayhem in a way that only GTA could deliver. It's crazy to think that Rockstar just decided to drop it in the later games games. Alright, if you've ever played GTA 4, I'm almost certain you tried the glitched swing set at least once. It was one of those hilarious glitches that almost felt like Rockstar left it in the game on purpose, just for the fun of it. You drive any car up to a swing set, and next thing you know, it'd go haywire and launch you across the map at ridiculous speeds. It was pure chaos, and it never stopped being funny, no matter how many times you did it. People spent hours just messing around with that swing set, seeing how far they could get launched or what crazy stunts they could pull off mid-air. The best part is, it felt like one of those secret things everyone knew about but wasn't really part of the main game. It was just there, waiting to be discovered, and it became a core memory for anyone who played GTA 4 back in the day. Now what's funny is that GTA 5 had something similar, the gate glitch, though it wasn't as iconic as the swing set. Alright, I know the video title says features, but we're about to talk about something big, stories. And of course, I'm talking about GTA Vice City stories and Liberty City stories. Now, I gotta ask, how could Rockstar mess this up so badly? I'm not talking about the games themselves, they were great for what they were, but the way they were released? That was a straight up disaster. I mean, seriously, making prequels to Vice City and GTA 3 and then not releasing them on PC? What were they even thinking? Sure, most of their sales probably came from consoles, but come on, by leaving PC out, they totally shut the door on a huge part of their fan base. For the longest time, I couldn't even play these games because, like many of you, I didn't own a console. And it's not just me. When people talk about the GTA series, everyone mentions the trilogy GTA 4, GTA 5, and now GTA 6. But honestly, I feel like Liberty City and Vice City stories and even Chinatown Wars are just kinda forgotten. They sit on the sidelines because Rockstar didn't give them the same level of attention, and part of that is because they skipped over such an important audience, PC players. And don't even get me started on how Rockstar treats PC players in general. It's like they have zero respect for us. They didn't give us Red Dead Redemption for 14 years. The original RDR was out there, available on consoles, but if you were a PC player, too bad. It wasn't until recently that they even announced its release on modern platforms, and I'm still out here wondering why it took them this long. It feels like Rockstar sees PC players as an afterthought. We didn't get RDR, we didn't get the stories games, and honestly, it just feels like we're constantly left out of the loop. But I'm not gonna sit here and keep ranting about Rockstar. Instead, I've got a question for you. What feature made you go, damn, I totally forgot about that? And are there any other forgotten features that come to mind? Let me know in the comments down below, because I'm sure there's a ton more that I didn't even touch on.